Apologize for getting a bit of an early jump on you this morning, but it's hot in my house, and I just want to be sure we get this done. And then I get out of the shirt and tie and, I don't know, go outside or something. Good morning to you. I'm Dan Gresham, and this is the at-home update. I did an update on Saturday. I normally would have done one on probably Saturday afternoon, Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, just to kind of stay in touch. But you know what? I haven't had power. Have not had internet. I finally got the internet spectrum back up this morning, but I still don't have power. So I'm running on a generator. So if it cuts out in the middle of what we're doing this morning, you'll know why. So this is what I thought we'd do this morning. I thought we'd talk a little bit about what we saw on Friday, what your impressions were from Friday, what your takeaways were moving forward. We'll get a look at what's going on with the outage maps across southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana, so you kind of know where you stand. And then we'll update you on the headlines, see what's going on there. All that coming up on this, the 12th day of October for 2020. Once again, welcome into my house. I am Dan Gresham, morning show anchor at KFDM Fox 4 in Beaumont, Texas. And this is just something we do on a daily basis. It is not a newscast. Don't confuse it for a newscast. This is not something where I've got, I'm going to read X number of stories. These are more about observations and about things that are happening in our community, things that might be happening around the world, but just things we want to bring to your attention. And if you're watching from outside of Southeast Texas, on Friday, it was some kind of a weather show in Southeast Texas. And it was one of those that I don't think anybody really knew it was coming, right? I mean, you looked at all the stuff and you thought, okay, storm, Louisiana, we're going to be on that dry side of the storm. And historically speaking, it's the mild side. It's the side where not much happens. That was not the case on Friday. In fact, let's see, I believe it was in Port Arthur, they saw Sabine Pass, actually, 74 to 76 mile an hour winds. In Beaumont proper, I think I saw something like 64, 65, 67. You get into some other areas, not quite as high, but still in the 50s. And these were not sustained winds necessarily, but these were gusts of winds. And it was strong enough to knock I think 109,000 people at the height of the storm were without power, and many of us are still without power this morning. I jokingly said this morning on the television show, I find myself in an island of darkness. All around me are lights. My neighbors, this is nothing new to me. I've been living in the same house for more than 30 years. And historically speaking, and I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's because of where it's at in the city. I don't know if it's because maybe it's a small line, that you only have a number of people on. I've asked before many times over the course of all these years that I have lived here and covered storms and been without power, and I've gone as long as 21 days without power, that I've always asked the people in energy, so what's the process? How does this work? What is your operation schedule? How do you go about deciding where you start? And I've always been told they start at whatever turns on the highest number of people the most efficiently. In other words, if you've got one area of town, you've got 2,000 people without power, you're going to attack that area maybe before you do one that's got 16 people. Now, that being said, let's go look at what's going on. KFDM.com. We always like to start here. And of course, there you see Southeast Texas deal with power outages after Delta's powerful winds. We also have the story Entergy working to restore power. But let's go to Entergy's map. And the first thing that I want to tell you this morning, many of you, like me, have been here multiple times over the weekend. You know that it's an ever-changing picture that we're seeing here. But I always like to point out at the very top of the page, the company's being right up front, outage updates delayed on map. So you may go in here and you may go, well, wait a minute. As I'm looking at Beaumont, I know those people have power because I just drove by there. So, again, there could be some contrast to what you see here and what's actually happening. But as we pull out, it's pretty obvious you still have a number of pockets in Beaumont. Orange County looks, you guys look pretty good. You look over there, yeah, you still have some outages. And anyone who's without's like, who are you talking about, right? But then you go down South County, and man, that's when it really turns red. Look at all of Mid-County, you still got problems. Look at Port Arthur. Look at this segment of Port Arthur. Let me zoom in for you. I mean, you're talking about the entire portion of downtown, being without, and then other parts of town, yeah. Then you get out into some of the other areas. Mid-County, like I said, there's still a lot of red there out by the airport. 365 Central Gardens. Then you come up into Beaumont, you see some of that. And like I said, Orange County, yeah, there are spots in Vidor and there are spots in Bridge City. But, as far as the map shows, that, if that's accurate, it looks pretty good over there. Now, I just got Christian Guillory says, in Orange County, it shows a lot of it's green, but we actually don't have power still. And that's really possible. Again, how accurate these maps are. I hope that these are fairly accurate numbers because we can go in and go by county. And you can see in Jefferson County, you have, let me kind of see if I can enlarge that one for you. I'm not sure if I can. I don't think I can. But we have 28,577 at last report. Orange County, 3,225. And Hardin County, 29. And then in Liberty, they have a few as well. Montgomery County, they have a few. But you can see the bulk is in Jefferson and Orange counties. And again, Jefferson County, 28,577 who are without this morning. So go ahead, weigh in if you want this morning. I always encourage you, just like any other Facebook post, post up, good morning. This is where I'm watching from. This is what's going on in my world. And if you want to say, I don't have power and include that, well, certainly you can. Here's one that says, none in the West End. Well, we do have some in the West End, but not everybody in the West End. You're right. And that's why I hesitate from making blanket statements, because as soon as you do, then somebody says they have it. Teresa says, still no power in her part of Groves. As I said, Christian says that they looks like they have power, but they still don't have power. Joanna Donovan says Texas Point and Sabine Pass recorded 100-mile-an-hour winds. Airport recorded 90. Still no power in Nederland. And Joanne, I hesitate always from using specific, unless somebody gives it to me from either the National Weather Service or from the meteorologist at Channel 6, because I have no way of verifying or knowing where these readings are, how accurate the equipment is. I'm not doubting you. I'm just saying I would never say that just because I don't have it from those sources. And I think it goes back to that idea that don't report anything that you can't confirm, and I can't. So I just want to say that easily tropical force, and I think easily hurricane force winds in many parts of southeast Texas. And again, not on a sustained basis, but on gust. I think there's plenty of evidence around with trees and everything. Carlene, good morning to you. Shirley, good morning to you. James as well. Kelly is up with us this morning. Carlene says it's hot here in Nederland. It's hot in the house. I have a generator. I have power. I can run my fans, but I do not have AC. And you can blow all the air around inside your house, but if it's hot air, it just doesn't do a whole lot of good. And unfortunately, our forecast is not going to work in our favor this morning. In fact, we're looking for highs today, 88. So if you're stuck in the house, I would say get out right now and enjoy some of what are going to be the cooler temperatures of the day, because as the day goes on, it's only going to get. And the bad part is, during the storm, winds coming out of the north. That next morning, it was like, oh, I can handle no power. It's nice and cool. And then the wind switched around to the south, started bringing in the humidity off the Gulf, and everything changed. Shirley James experienced very high winds, but minimal damage. And I think that's where a lot of folks are this morning. Kelly Clark says she has power in Mid-County north of Port Arthur. Don Hennigan says, good morning. Hope is all. Yeah, everything's good with me and my family. Yes. we are, dealing with the power issue, but I'll take no power over no home anytime. You know what I'm saying? Anybody who's been through this, you can gripe all you want about, yeah, I don't have power or it's hot, but it beats the heck out of not having a home to come home to. And a lot of folks know what that's like, whether it was, from a tropical storm and being flooded out or from wind. Cheryl says, no power in the south end. I saw that. Jefferson County needs to be giving away ice and water because people are not having power. I'm sure a lot of folks would love to have that. South end of Beaumont saying they're not with power. Tristan says, good morning, no power on my end of 15th Street in Nederland. Yeah, it's always frustrating, Tristan, when you look up and you go, mine, but they're fifth. Yeah, but that's just the way it works because of the way that you run all the different, And again, a lot of people say the same thing. Well, if we had underground power lines, if we bury, but the problem is retrofitting everything, as I understand it. I mean, it's one thing to say, I wish we had it. It's another thing to pay the cost to take everything down off of poles and put it underground. Very expensive proposition, for sure. John Boone says, good morning. Portable AC units work great. They do. And there will be one tonight. If I don't have power by this evening, John, I have one. It's out of my barn. The first couple of nights, I was like, I'm not going to drag that thing in. I can live with this. It's very comfortable, doing this. Good one. Alexandria LeBlanc says, power line that is dangerously low, lines touching streets. Be careful out there, people. I mean, truly. There are still some lines out there. They're intertangled with trees that have not been cleaned up yet. And you think, oh, there's nothing there. It can be very dangerous. The other thing that we need to remind ourselves about is generators. Running one can change your life. I mean, it really can. To have a light, to be able to have a fan, to be able, that versus being in a house that's, pitch black, hot. All you've got is a flashlight or candles. Been there, done that too many times. So a generator, suddenly you can have a lamp on, maybe you can turn on a fan. It makes a big difference, but they can also be a very dangerous proposition. So be sure that you have gotten that generator away from the house, that you're not, and you want to go, oh, I don't want to have to go out and deal with it, so I'm going to put it as close as I can to the house. Not a good idea. Too many people have died from putting their generator inside their garage, thinking I'm going to make a short run into the house with extension cords. I don't have long enough. But when you put it that close, then you're running the risk of carbon monoxide exposure. So please be smart, all right? Be very smart when you're using that generator. It's just, it's a great, like I said, great tool. Best investment that I made this year was I finally hired somebody to come and actually put a plug into my house, run it into my, fuse box where I can have a cutoff and can actually run it into my house. I plug it into the outside of the wall. It's easily done. You have to hire an electrician to do it. At least most of us do. But once it's done, I mean, twice this year, right? My favorite meme of the day. And we'll take a look at some of the headlines. I saw somebody posted on Facebook, who signed me up for the Hurricane of the Month Club? Isn't that the way it feels this morning? After going back through this. All right, let's check out some headlines again. As we mentioned, most of the talk everywhere you go. And listen, a lot of schools are not in session today and tomorrow because students don't have power. So people are not going to be going. And you may be hearing noise in the background here, and I apologize, but I'm not going to turn it off. It's the fan. And I intend to run the fan as long as I'm in this office with all this equipment running, which is heating things up. You can go and look, Orange County cleaning up debris, talking about assessing the damage across Southeast Texas. There's that story I was telling you about generator safety being critically important as we continue to restore power. And then from overnight, updating this story, homicide, Beaumont police officers looking for a gunman. Shot and killed a man, injured a second person in a drive-by shooting. And you can go and get the details on that. Also, of course, KFDM Facebook, where we are right now broadcasting or live streaming. You can go and read all the information on that. Oh, that's a pretty interesting. Bostwick posted, today is the 134th anniversary of the Great Hurricane of 1886, which destroyed Sabine Pass. It is the latest in the year that hurricane force wind has been experienced in Jefferson and Orange counties. That hurricane was a Category 3 and killed over 100 people from Sabine Pass to Johnson's Bayou. How about that? I did not realize that. But again, to me, it seems highly unusual living here, right, that we have hurricanes this late into October. I don't think about that. I know hurricane season does not officially end until the end of November. But as long as I've been here, I don't remember hurricanes or even tropical weather. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there's another tropical system out there that they're watching that they say has 30% development. It's way out there. So it may not be a problem, but I'm not going to be the one who didn't say it. I'm not going to be the one who didn't bring it to your attention. Yeah, I know. I'm not going to, right? Hear no evil, see no evil, but I can't not say it. I cannot tell you it's out there. All right, so let me ask you to do me a favor this morning. If you appreciate the update, or if you just tune in from time to time, give me a thumbs up, a like. I'd appreciate that. Or if you don't like it, give me an angry face or whatever, a heart, and crying, laughing. I doesn't matter. Just some kind of indicator that you're there this morning. I appreciate that. And continue to read every one of your posts, as I always say. I really do. After it's over, I go and look at it because I want to know what's going on and, who bothered to show up this morning and be part of our community. There's no punishment for not showing up. All right. Also wanted just a couple other things before we get on our way this morning and get our day started. Here's one that I thought was an interesting story from the Texas Tribune. Texas voters have serious concerns about voting and the 2020 election. It's a poll from the University of Texas and the Texas Tribune. It says less than half of Texas registered voters are confident that Americans will trust the results of the presidential election. And fewer still said they themselves will trust those results. While 47% said Americans will trust the results, only 16% said they were very confident that will happen. 44% said they were not confident, including 15% who said they were not at all confident. The rest offered no opinion. But it's an interesting look, I think, at where we are, our state of mind going forward towards November the 3rd. And I hope you realize early voting begins tomorrow. Today is the 12th. Tomorrow is the 13th. We will open up early voting in the state of Texas. And you will be able to go out and cast your ballot. And again, the beautiful thing about casting a vote early is you don't have to worry about what precinct am I in. All you have to do is go someplace where they're voting, and you can do that. You can cast your ballot. And there you go. The other one I was going to share, I thought was interesting about how people plan to vote. 60% of Texas registered voters say they will vote early, in person this year, while 26% say they'll vote in person on Election Day. I historically have always been an Election Day voter. I've always felt like, I don't know, it was part of the process. I always felt like, I don't know, I guess I always go back to the day my dad, as a child, took me to the voting booth for the very first time. Gregg County, Texas. Never forget it. At the county courthouse. Marched us in, taking me in right beside him. This is my son. I want to show him. And we walked in, and it was much different back then. You had voting booths. And it was like, wow. You know what I remember thinking? Oh, it's just like the Wizard of Oz. It's like that guy behind because you pulled a handle and the curtain slid back. A lot of folks will remember this. You went inside to protect your privacy. You did that. The curtain came back across. And then there were physical levers that you moved in the voting booth, and you would move them all. But anyway, it was part of that idea that before there was early voting, because for many years, the only way you voted early in the state of Texas was absentee voting, which was much different than what we have today. This is early voting. This is not absent. Now, you can still vote absentee, but it's a totally different process. And you have mail-in ballots. But absentee and early voting are two different things. You don't have to have an excuse. You don't have to have a reason that you want to, vote early. All you have to have now is the need or the want. And then you go down to the polling place, and we'll publish them on our website. We'll publish them all. You'll be able to see them on kfdm.com, that you can go and check out where you want to vote. And then, again, voter registration, I want to hit that real quick, too. If you're thinking, oh, I didn't register to vote. Well, if you've registered and you've been voting and you haven't changed addresses or anything, you're still registered to vote. Oh, but I don't know where my voter registration card is. Well, don't worry about that. You don't need to have your voter registration card. If you have a photo ID, then you can walk in and prove your residency to the election judges, and then they will say, okay, this is yes, you vote here. The problem becomes when you start having to go to precincts and you don't know what your precinct is. That's why another reason voting early is nice, because you don't have to, you can go, whatever's closest to you, whatever you think would be easiest, wherever you see the shortest line. That's another way to do it. And if you're concerned about voting during the pandemic, mask up. Take precautions. Be smart about it. I don't understand necessarily, maybe if you're an elderly person with pre-existing conditions and have been told do not, then that would be a way to vote mail-in, absentee, whatever. But again, there are going to be plenty of locations. Shouldn't be a crowd. But anyway, this is how will you cast your ballot? 26% say on election day, 60% say in person early, 13% say by mail. And then you can see how it breaks out by the parties. And there's not that much difference. Only Democrats, the bulk of them say, no, we plan on either voting early or voting by mail. And there's a big difference, too. 25% of Democrats that they polled said they were voting by mail. Only 5% of Republicans said they are voting by mail. And then 33% of Republicans say they will vote on election day, as opposed to 15% for the Democrats. And again, if you're one of those persons that's concerned about mail-in ballots, go vote in person. But the person is entitled to be able to vote, right? I think we all agree that that has been earned the hard way in this country. What I'm always interested in is how many will vote. We'll have this talking about the highest voter registration, but what percentage of registered voters will actually vote in this election? Watch that one as we move forward. It'll be interesting to see. Will it be 25% of the registered voters? And what would be a staggering number to you? How many countries do you see where 75% of the registered voters cast a ballot? It won't be 75%. You may think, oh, well, this is going to be different because it's such a charged election. Watch. It would be, I think some people would fall out of their chairs if it hit 75%. All right, and always like to end on something light, no exception today. So let's move over to Texas Monthly. Thought an interesting, just kind of escape article if you're looking for something to take your mind off of everything else that's happening. Look at this. Get lost in the woods at these 5 magical Texas tree houses. Yeah, we have tree houses in the state of Texas that you can actually go and spend the night in. Look at this. Pretty cool. Front row seat to nature in Cypress Valley, Spicewood. There's another one, of course. This one, up to 6 guests can dine in the treehouse room at the Laurel Tree Restaurant in Utopia, Texas, where the name has been earned, Utopia. The Live Oak Treehouse at Honey Tree Farms. Look at the bathtub, sunken, sort of, or maybe use the other side of the tent for the bathtub. But anyway, just go and check it out. I thought it was pretty cool. Some of these tree houses that are actually available. If you want to stay in them, you can. That would be a nice escape. Look at, I love that one. On the Frio? Wow, it's even got the swing. I don't think I'd be jumping from the treehouse since it's 40 feet above the Frio, and the Frio may not be too deep right there. But anyway, cool way to do it. All right, so again, persevere today, whatever your situation is. If you're like many of us and you're without power, get through it the best way you can. Hopefully, maybe you're going to work or getting out of the house. But if you can't get out of the house, told them this morning, we were talking on the television show, you don't know how much it would be appreciated if you have power and you know somebody who doesn't. If you just said, hey, you know what? Why don't you come by and have lunch with us? Or, hey, we're going to make supper and you're invited. It's just, it's that reprieve from the heat. I know, 20 minutes sitting in somebody else's house. They will thank you for it. Easily. And again, check on your friends and neighbors. If you haven't heard from somebody, if you're concerned about somebody, it's a real easy thing to do. Pick up the phone, walk across the street, but don't be so isolated you don't know what's going on around you. I've been talking to couple of my grandkids about situational awareness. Always know what's going on around you. Don't be oblivious. Don't walk with your head down. Hold your head up. See what's going on. Live your life with your head up and your eyes open to know what's going on around you. It's just part of being educated. All right. Thank you for your time. I value it because I believe time is the only true currency that we have in life. And I want you to make the most of it. So be informed as you go through your day. We'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning on KFDM TV. And of course, we'll be back with the at-home update tomorrow as well. So go out and make it a terrific and safe day. And as I said, persevere the best you can.